Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video. My name is Angel DeSantis. I didn't do a video last week, and I know that either nobody noticed or by the time you watch this it doesn't matter, but I wanted to address not doing it because I chose not to do it because I didn't feel like it. I felt overwhelmed, and I knew that trying to sit down and film would have felt like a self-betrayal. And what I mean by that is being forced to ignore my own intuition and how I was feeling for so long in my life. What I'm trying to do now is really listen and observe how I feel and respond to that in the moment instead of trying to force myself to do things that I don't want to do. And that was an interesting moment for me because as I was contemplating I can just sit down, force myself to do it, edit it, and have it up. But I realized that I wouldn't have said anything really useful or authentic. It would have just been, I would have made a video just to make a video. And what I truly wanted to say wouldn't necessarily have come through because I would have been checking a box instead of creating something that I felt the desire to create. So I think it's important for a lot of us who have grown up in these environments, whether it's a religious environment or an oppressive environment, if you were raised in any sort of environment that required self-betrayal from you, I think it's important once you are an adult, it's important to make the choice to disappoint other people instead of yourself. And I know that that might sound really selfish. And if you were raised to always choose yourself last, then it is a selfish thing. And I was raised to always choose myself last, but that is why now, being an adult and trying to change the way my brain patterns work, I choose what to me might have previously felt like a selfish thing. And I reframe it because what it actually is me taking care of myself. And so when I sit down to make this video today, I feel good about it and I want to make it and I have a subject and I want to talk about it. And it's kind of just letting my cup be filled and overflow instead of just draining myself and hitting a box that I said that I would hit. So that's that. So I want to encourage you to disappoint other people instead of yourself. That's the first part. But really what I wanted to talk about in this video, and this was a question from one of you, so thank you. I do always appreciate questions. But somebody wrote me and asked me how to process feeling a lot of anger towards your family. And I do have another video on anger, but I don't think I addressed this in that one. I will link that one here. It should pop up as a little zzz that you can click on. But I also wanted to share something that my therapist shared with me and I found very helpful. And he said anger is not necessarily the thing. Anger is the lid covering the thing. And what I had found when I would process anger, when I would let myself feel it and let it come up. And the thing is as you're starting to dig down into yourself, you hit the anger lid. And if you have been suppressing all of your emotions, there's lids on everything. And the moment you go down a little bit, you find anger a lot. Every time you try and burrow down into yourself, immediately there's anger, 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 anger. And that's just because you've had to suppress yourself. So there's a lid on everything, and the lid of everything is anger. But when you allow yourself to kind of go through and be in the anger and be like, what is this? Why is this here? And you're in it long enough that you can actually grasp it, then you can actually grasp the anger and remove the lid and see what's underneath it, which is the actual issue. So for example, this is a super simple one. If I'm in traffic and somebody almost cuts me off, I have a little bit of road rage, which I enjoy. But you get angry, you yell, call the person a name, and that's the lid, right? Because the fear is actually they could have killed you. And that's what you're reacting to, is that you might be super upset at them, but really that's the lid for the fear that this person could have killed me. And that's terrifying. And instead of being wow, I'm scared, that was scary, this other person terrified me, immediately it's easier to get really angry at this other person. So that's a super basic one. But if you think about it that way and think about, okay, let me go into my anger, let me stay in it, let me ask where it's come from, what I'm upset at. And if you keep asking, what is this, where did it come from, and who am I upset at, and you keep going through, then you actually tend to find the actual issue. And a lot of times for me, what I have found is that the issue is a lot of like not self-inflicted, but a lot of wounding of self, and a lot of wounding of like inner child, and a lot of grief, because sometimes it's easier to be angry of just like, oh, that person treated me badly and they're an asshole, instead of being like, oh, this shouldn't have happened to me, this was cruel and it really hurt me, and I suppressed a whole part of my personality because I was so hurt, and I'm resentful at them, and I'm resentful to myself for not being able to cultivate this part of myself that I think could have saved me, and a part of myself that I really loved, and now I haven't touched it for 20 years because someone else was cruel to me, and it made me suppress that part of me. And that's just a lot more difficult than being like, I remember that person was an asshole 20 years ago, they must still be an asshole now. And I've seen a lot of that in the ex-member community from the cult that I was in. A lot of us are still really angry, and that's fine. But if you want to go past that anger, you have to understand that the anger, or not you have to understand, but it might be useful to understand or observe the anger as if it's a lid. And if it is a lid, then what is it covering? What is it on top of? And if you were to remove it, what is the actual issue, or what's actually there? And I think having the courage to do that is the thing that's difficult. And it is always easiest to be angry, because anger is a valid emotion. And, you know, if I'm upset with the person who almost cuts me off, I'm correct. They shouldn't have cut me off. They shouldn't have put my life in danger. So the anger is justified. Except that the anger is, again, the covering for the fear that this person put my life in danger. And I feared for my life, and that's why I was angry. But I think it's important to understand that two things can be true at the same time. And it can be true that you deserve to be angry, and it can also be true that underneath that is the actual issue. So I wanted to come on here and offer that for those of you who are experiencing a lot of anger or bitterness or resentment. It can be true that you absolutely deserve to be angry at people who were cruel to you. Like, absolutely. I feel very justified. I no longer feel the need to express my anger at these people, but I am very, I think, righteously angry towards what happened to me. And this is kind of my way of combating it, is coming out here and talking about it and wanting to give resources to other people who have been through it, because I know that I can't spend the rest of my life expressing the anger in a way that is self-destructive. So for example, if I thought, okay, well, this one person, John, was cruel to me 30 years ago, let me spend the rest of my life finding John and trying to punish him. That would be self-destructive, because I would then spend a lot of years of my life chasing that person who harmed me, instead of chasing myself and trying to make myself become a more evolved, or a more, what is the word, more textured version of myself. Like, bringing myself to life is the thing that's worthy, is the worthy task to do with my life, as opposed to chasing down someone who made me angry. So if you find yourself upset a lot and you find yourself angry a lot, take that analogy and see if it's useful to you. See if you hit anger every time you burrow down to try and look at something. Do you hit anger when you think about your family? Do you hit anger when you think about your schooling? Do you hit anger when you think about your social life? Like, go through the components of your life and see how deep you can go before you hit that ping of anger. And then let yourself feel the anger, be in it, ask again how, who, why, until you're able to grasp the lid. And when you have the courage, uncover what's underneath. And then we can address the actual issue. So that's my video this week. I've been doing a lot of thinking and getting everything together for the courses, for the process that I'm going to launch at the end of the month. So it's been really exciting, but I've run across a lot of anger, but it's been mostly at myself, which has been really interesting, because then I've been able to be like, all right, let's grasp this. Let's look at it. Let's see what we're mad about. Let's see what part of me is mad at what part of me. and then we can kind of address the actual issue, which is generally always like imposter syndrome and all that good stuff that we all feel. But the good news is we all feel it, so I know that you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, so my hope was always that you feel less alone in your journey. And so I hope that me sharing this is helpful for you and it allows you to feel less alone. And again, I appreciate your comments. I will do better at responding to them. And I also appreciate you giving me subjects to talk about, because I want to talk about the things that are important to you. So start that dialogue with me and I will keep that up with you. So thank you guys, and I'll see you all next time.